Okay. Then, greetings, mind crafters, and welcome to another sensational Minecraft podcast episode. My name is Kimberly Quinn, and I have with me the amazing Ryan Dunphy, who I have come to get to know rather well at this point via a professional group that we're both in, mastermind group called the Rising Tide Connection, which is the idea behind that, right? Is rising tides lift or raise all ships, right, Ryan?
That's it.
Hundred
That's it.
percent, 100%. So Ryan and I become fast friends. We have a lot in common. So I am super pumped, Ryan. First of all, I want to thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, and you're welcome.
Awesome,
We're gonna have so
awesome.
much fun today.
So much fun. And so after this, I think you can just take it away. Ryan wants to talk about taking control of your time. And I'm thinking right now, right off the bat, there are probably quite a few people who would really like to hear what you have to say about this. So why don't I just turn it over to you?
That sounds wonderful. Well, thank you so much, and I want to celebrate you for you and everything you're doing, and this show, and everybody that's listening. Celebrating you for bettering yourself. That is amazing. Very cool. Well, yeah, let's jump into it. So, I believe, and I want everyone to have their own definition of time management. I think that everybody has a different experience in life. Everybody has a different adventure. And I believe firmly that everybody needs to create what is going to work best for them. There is no one way to do anything. We embrace every day as a new adventure. But the way that I have come to define time management is simply bringing the right energy to the right activities. And I don't know about you, but I feel like there's a lot of people that are struggling because they have one or both of those things wrong. That maybe they're showing up tired every day, they're showing up hungry, they're showing up just not with the right energy, and they're not putting that energy into the right direction. So, I mean, I understand we're doing a audio podcast here, so you can't see me, but as I've told Kimberly when we first met, don't let the beard fool you. I'm a child. And we have to think about how are kids, for anybody listening that has kids or was a kid, so that's everybody. How is a kid when they're hungry or tired or they haven't moved enough? We're just big versions of that. And a lot of times they're very, very wildly simple solutions to our big complex problems. So what I encourage people to do is to figure out, are you bringing the right energy to each day? And what are you doing with your time? What are you doing with your focus? What are you doing with your energy and your intentionality? Are you moving in the right direction? Are you working really hard and you're busy, 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 but you're not making a ton of progress? Are you even moving in the right direction? I believe that people need to look at their life and their life minutes, which I love that you have this term. And I want to talk more about that. I think that they need to look at their life minutes and their hours, weeks, months, and years, both through a microscope and look at the little finite details that make up each second, as well as hop in a hot air balloon and look at the landscape as a whole. Am I moving in the direction I even want to move? Is this the right thing for me? What's holding me back? What's working for me? What's working with me? So, Kimberly, tell us a little bit about your life minutes and how you ended up coming up with that. And then I'll share the story with how I arrived at that definition.
That actually has a sort of cool brief story with my childhood best friend who actually gets the credit for coming up with life minutes. And we used to sit up on the roof of our house, or each of our houses actually, talking about all kinds of deep stuff at 8 years old. All kinds of good stuff. And then it kind of blossomed into a much bigger thing, with doing different workshops out in the world, because people kind of really took to it very, very quickly. When we break it down, especially speaking of rising tide, Jake, the mastermind leader, this will kind of sum it up, really loved it, because we often talk about, like you're saying, weeks and months, but when you break it down to minutes, like when I think about 15 minutes in a really boring, unnecessary conversation, I'm going to want that 15 minutes back when I'm 80. And guess what? Not getting it. And so I'm super
Right.
careful where who I spend my time with. and also anything I do, and also allowing, unwanted, unfavorable thoughts that are going to be destructive. I just kick those right out the door because I
Yeah,
don't want my life minutes corroded like battery acid with negative thinking.
I love that. I love that. You're taming the gremlins. We all have
Exactly.
them.
Right, right. We got to stay with it, right, Ryan? You got to stay with it.
Right, right. Yeah, and that's amazing because we all have life minutes. We all have a different amount. We all have a different amount remaining. So it's how are you spending those? Are you investing those? Are you wasting those? Are they just turning into watching Friends again,
Right, right,
watching all
right.
the episodes again?
So I'm
Which
thinking
is
about, go ahead. I'm sorry, Ryan.
which is fine background music every once in a while if that helps somebody to unwind at the end of the day. It's we all have that. Not every single minute needs to be planned. For some people that
Correct.
works, for some people that doesn't,
Right.
but you need to figure out what level of structure is going to work for you. And at the end of the day, healthy boundaries end up enabling freedom. It's like putting a fence on a corner yard like we have here. Our son can use the entire yard now. Whereas when he was little, we were constantly, sheepdogging him back away from the sidewalk and the road, and we could use probably a third of our yard. But once we installed the fence, then you can use
Mhm.
the whole yard all the way up to the fence. So those boundaries can enable freedom. So that's amazing. Love that. Love that. So I guess I can share. Maybe do you want to hear a little bit of my story on how this came to be?
I would love to hear your story and how this came to be.
Nice. All right, story time. Pull up a chair, grab some popcorn and a nice blanket. Well, a long, long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, in Warren County, New Jersey. So I grew up in New Jersey, northwestern corner, far away from the beach, far away from New York City and Philadelphia. It was for those listening that have never been in New Jersey, we have more than Newark Airport. It's actually called the Garden State, and there's lots of room to roam out there. So where I grew up was a lot of dairy farms and dirt bikes. That's kind of how I grew up, hiking, camping, fishing, doing all these different things. So I realized at a pretty early age that some of my superpowers were more interacting with people and less being in a cubicle. For other people, it's inverted. Everybody has their own version. So again, everybody needs to design a life that's going to work for them. So I decided to go to school for health and exercise science. So I loved that. It was a great experience. I really came out of my shell living 100 miles away from home with 9 other people, which, believe it or not, it was actually quite quiet until college. Now I won't shut up, and sometimes they even get paid to speak. So again, design whatever works best for you. And during my time there, it was amazing. I worked in corporate fitness for a while after that. And then for years, I worked in medically based fitness. So I worked for a hospital system that owned a community facing fitness center. So we had the full spectrum of everybody from post cardiac rehab and physical therapy all the way up through our triathlon club. So we had the full spectrum of members there, which was amazing. But over the years, I started to feel a little bit like Bill Murray, and it started to turn into Groundhog Weeks and Groundhog Days. Where I understand you're listening to this and you can't see me, I'm doing air quotes right now. The same people and the same illnesses and the same injuries. And I just got very frustrated with seeing all of that avoidable pain and suffering and
Mhm.
time and money that
Mhm.
goes into these diseases and being uncomfortable and being deconditioned. So I said, I want to help these people on a bigger level. So what can I do, or how can I help people in a bigger way? So I decided to go back for my master's degree in wellness and lifestyle management. And my first course was wellness coaching for lasting lifestyle change. It was Dr. Arlovsky's work. And within the first chapter, I had one of these light bulb, oh, shiznit kind of moments that I was doing nothing with prevention. I was doing everything with people that have already crashed over the waterfall onto the rocks. And I was trying to pull them out of the lake, person after person after person after person, versus let's get a little higher up the stream and see why these people are falling in. So I ended up launching now 10 years ago, as this episode is being recorded, a health coaching company of my own. So that way I could operate outside of the fitness center. I could work with the people remotely. I could do all kinds of different things with the clients, which was cool. There was a lot of neat equipment at the fitness center, but I needed a bit more freedom. So I was able to start that. I loved that, working with people to figure out how they could take better control of their stress, because at its root cause, that's what landed the vast majority, probably 90% of the people
Hmm.
in my chair after physical therapy, after cardiac rehab, after gastric bypass surgery, because they needed to lose over 100 pounds. For so many people, this boils back to stress. And I'll throw this out now. If you feel personally attacked, I say this all with love, but for so many people, a stress comes into our life, or we invite it in, and then we start to lose sleep because we're tossing and turning and thinking about that thing. We wake up in the morning to the alarm clock and
Hmm.
smash that, thinking 7 more minutes will be the answer.
Right.
Unfortunately, it's not. And then we rush out the house. We didn't take any time to pack a lunch or make a real breakfast. So we
Right.
eat, I'm using air quotes again, food, and have air quotes coffee, aka dessert for the most part in the typical American diet. And then we get all stressed out at work. We eat a bunch of garbage. Lunchtime comes, people run out to the drive through for, again, air quotes, food, rush back to the office, scarf it down if they're not scarfing it down while they're driving, effectively steal 20 minutes of company time in the bathroom in the afternoon. I'll let you figure that part out. And then we rush home and we get home, and now we're so tired because our body hasn't had nutrients all day long.
Hmm.
We're exhausted. We're so hungry. So we look for what's fast, cheap, and easy.
Right.
High quantity, low quality. Whatever's right there, I can grab. And then we sit on the couch because we're in a massive sugar crash now. We've been satiated. We probably overeat.
Hmm.
We turn on this is the technical term I have, the glowing idiot box for a few hours. We look at our clock and, oh, geez, now it's after bedtime. So now I'm using air quotes again. I need the red wine. I need the sleeping pills. I need this, that, and the next thing. So again, if you feel personally attacked, I apologize, but I say this with love for awareness. Compounded that over 5, 10, 15, 20 years, you're going to blow your plumbing out. You're going to hurt your knees. You're going to hurt your spine. You're going to hurt everything. You're going to hurt yourself and your family. So you need to take better control of your stress. So for a few years, I worked in that role, really focused on that a lot. And then I was approached by a construction company down in Maryland to speak to their workers around stress management, worksite wellness, injury prevention. There unfortunately were a lot of workers ended up hurt on the job or hurt at home and unable to perform the job at work, or deconditioned and out of breath
Right.
after climbing a ladder. And that's part of their daily role. So they wanted somebody to come in that both had the exercise science and behavior change background and also understood the construction mentality, because I used to work in construction and septic tanks and paper patios and landscaping and all these different things. So I understand the mentality of, I don't need somebody else to help me pick that up.
Right. Right. Right.
Hey, I've been guilty of that in the past too. Nobody's perfect, right? So I was able to go in and do a presentation with a bunch of their different sites, and I absolutely loved it. I got to work with hundreds of people across multiple states, and I got to really help with the awareness and give people some different tools to better take control of their stress, take control of their time. And it's all those little things that add up, like having a big water bottle with you at all times and taking, inventory on your sleep. Are you getting enough quantity? What is the quality like? I'll also throw this out because this is something recently that came up for me. I talked with my doctor about my energy, and he actually had me go to get screened. And me, with no major medical conditions, pretty fit individual, I have sleep apnea. And there are an enormous amount of people that don't know that they have sleep apnea, even if they've been told they snore in the past or different things. The more I'm learning about this, I was told by the sleep center, anybody that has been told that they snore needs to go get screened for this, because this will exacerbate a lot of different diseases, and a lot of different things can come from this. And a lot of people can die in their sleep, which, we used to hear about that a long time ago, that they just went to sleep and didn't wake up. Well, what if that was avoidable?
Hmm.
So now I have the CPAP, which goes over my mouth and under my nose. Don't worry, they don't sound like they used to. It's not like a vacuum cleaner running in your room. Unless you're wearing it, you can barely even tell that it's on. So Side note, we're going to tame the squirrel, but just wanted to throw that out to anybody that's struggling with their energy. Might be worth talking with your doctor about that. So I got to do a lot of these different construction companies all over the place between Texas and California and Utah and Philadelphia and all these different places. It was a beautiful experience. And I always built a time management component into that because the way I looked at it, okay, if we manage our time, we can manage our stress, and we need to put on the calendar, okay, I'm going to go to the grocery store. I'm going to shop on the perimeter because most of the stuff in the aisles is trying to kill me. Throw that little nugget in there too. If you
Yeah,
can,
yeah.
really focus on the perimeter of the grocery store based on how they're laid out. That's where all your real food is going to be. Um, also throw this out. Hey, everybody, I want to focus on excellence and by design, not perfection in life and in business and in everything. Every once in a while, if we're out camping, we have a can of chili, but I want to throw it out there that it's probably not the best thing. Meat at room temperature that's good for 2 years. So let's focus on the perimeter, huh? I do that just about all the time, but every once in a while, that can of spicy chili sneaks its way in there, and that's okay too. So over the years, I did a lot of these different presentations, and I noticed a theme of being asked to come back again and speak more on time management, because that's a topic that a lot of people can work with, a lot of people can make progress with. So the wilderness is big for me. I oftentimes will go out in the woods, no phone, no journal, no pencil, just me and Ryan asking himself, what is working and how can I do more of that? And what is not working and what can I do to evolve? Evolution is also very big in my life because I used to work at Blockbuster, an entire industry that went poof for an unwillingness to evolve. So I realized within that time is the only finite resource. Everything else is a variable. What we focus on, what we do, where we live, what we eat, all these different things, our money, our health, the time of day, the weather, the season. Everything else is a variable. Time is the only finite resource. So if we take control of those 16 hours a day that we're awake, do a really good job with your sleep, so it does it on autopilot for a third of your life, then we can pretty much do anything. So what I did was, and this is something that I get to deal with a lot of different people, is I sat down and designed, well, what would an ideal week look like for me? What would be a repeatable success sequence, the flow of the week that could be, for the most part, again, excellence, not perfection. I could do it most weeks. And I asked myself, where can I reduce the randomness in my life? Love adventure, but we got to take control of that randomness. And where can I make the biggest difference? Where can I make the biggest impact? So I sat down with my calendar and I said, my hypothesis is I'm getting a lot of cancellations and no shows and last minute reschedules on Mondays and Fridays. And my hypothesis is people are manic on Mondays and burned out by Fridays. So, what would happen if I beefed up my availability on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays? Was also more selective with who I was putting on my calendar. Tell you what, I got a lot more done in a lot less time. So, putting up those healthy boundaries, so you have to start with assessing where is that chaos and how can we take a little bit of control with it. So I had my hypothesis. I use Calendly for a lot of my scheduling, and I was able to go into past events and filter by cancellations and reschedules, and boom, there it was, Mondays and Fridays, because it seems that most people are the most focused and getting the most done on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So that is where the majority of my work is done to match those that I get to work with. So I wanted to throw that out to everybody, is to sit down with a piece of paper and say, well, what would be some cool things if the week worked like this? Another example could be just about every Thursday, one of our two cars gets washed. So every 2 weeks, one of us has a squeaky clean Jeep, which I know you're in the Jeep club as well, or the Jeep cult. One of the first things that we got to bond on, which is super fun. But then that means, going into the weekend, we have a clean car. And when we take care of the car lasts longer, the value is there. And it's not, oh, geez, when was the last time we washed one of the cars? So you can do different things. So I focused on Management Monday for myself.
Hmm.
Being a father, there's a lot that goes on the weekends. We're not exactly just sitting around. So I usually take a little bit of time on Mondays to get Ryan's mindset right and do a little something that's going to get me primed for the week, whether that's a short walk outside, time with the dog, whatever it is. So doing something for yourself every day is really important. Throwing just a little bit of math into this. So this is something I realized as well as I was working with different people. I want you to take, for everybody listening here, I want you to invest 1% of your life minutes every single day into number one. Because when you take care of yourself, then everybody gets the best version of you. So 1% of 24 hours comes out to between 14 and 15 minutes. But you're worth it, so we're going to round up to 15 minutes. You can do this 15 minutes in one block. You can do 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes midday, or 5 minutes in the evening. Just something that's going to make you happy or manage your stress or make you feel better. Just something. This is not a time to catch up on the laundry or email. This is a time to do something that you enjoy, whether that's going outside or watching cat videos on YouTube. 1% of the day for number one, invest in yourself. And again, everybody gets the best version of you when you take the best care of yourself. I'll also really reinforce this by saying it's actually selfish to not take care of yourself. Because if you don't take care of yourself, then at some point you are going to be completely dependent upon everybody else, which nobody wants to be in that position. So take care of yourself a little bit each day. You get those compound results. Design a week that works for you, and just figure out, where can I reduce that randomness? What is going to be the best use of my energy? What is the best use of my focus? Kimberly, I've been talking for a long time. I want to give you an opportunity. What would you like to explore further? What questions do you have? How is this landing with you?
Oh my gosh, Ryan, I'm just over the top with the conversation. And, first of all, your sort of main theme about managing your time. I mean, this is a savor of life minutes. And I don't think people always get that. And the biggest thief of life minutes is autopilot, which you've been alluding to a lot, or maybe you're calling it randomness. But when we're on autopilot, is it's either we have two choices, right, with our decision making all day. Either we make
Yes.
active decisions, or we
Mm-hmm.
passively throw caution to the wind, and that's what you say when other people end up taking care of you eventually. And
Right.
also, I'm thinking of my dear friend Oprah. She just isn't aware of our relationship, but we are very close.
Not
And
yet. Yes.
she talks so much about how because a lot of people, there's a stigma with selfish, right? But there's good selfish and bad selfish, and we need
Sure.
to keep ourselves filled up, or we've got nothing to give anybody, right? So I like that you touched on that. And then I guess I wanted you to maybe, if you don't mind, because you've touched on a bunch of things that our fellow masterminders. In fact, Jeremy Roachford did a podcast with me just a little bit ago,
Yes.
and he tapped right into the intentionality like you did, and also James Clear's Atomic Habits with the 1%. So I wanted to,
Nice.
yeah. And then the other thing, maybe leading into one thing that we've talked a lot about with our group, is you've touched on it indirectly a lot, which is the idea of essentialism and the idea
Yes.
of what's important now. So maybe you can run, and also effortless, but you can also maybe run with that. And then the second thing would be, Ryan, if somebody, like when you were saying, if somebody feels attacked, because the truth hurts sometimes, right? Like, oh my God, that's me. The red wine
Yeah. I
at
say it all
night.
with love.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, with the red wine at night, or the idiot, what'd you say, the glowing idiot box, or maybe it's a combination, and you're
Yeah.
jumping into you're woofing down the leftover Chinese food because there's nothing, whatever. After maybe the essentialism, how would, let's say the light bulb's just barely going on for somebody, like
We got a flicker. Yeah, we got
they're
a
a
flicker.
flicker, but they're in
Yeah.
that. They're like, oh my God, that's me. I work 10 hours a day. I come home, fall down with not much more than a pulse and then I grab leftover
Sure.
Chinese food, sit on the couch, zone out to the whatever for 3 hours.
Right.
I have had no exercise, no, like,
Yeah.
so maybe tap into that, because if there is a flicker, that's a good sign.
Wonderful.
the light
Yeah, I'm
bulb,
actually going
right?
to start with that and I'll tie back to essentialism. So, for anybody listening, I have a resource that I put out on YouTube. It's a 1 hour course that I have a bunch of different worksheets that I've added to that. And from the people that I've had go through it, and a lot of the feedback is it's an hour course that can give you up to an hour back each day.
Wow.
It starts with, so the system I created is an epic time management system. Step one is E, evaluation. So we're going to do kind of a log of how are you spending your life minutes.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to work on prioritization, P, which we're going to talk about with essentialism. Intentionality. So I have some focus maximizer tools in there. And then consistency, designing that ideal week that again is excellent, and by design, not perfect. So that way you meet your needs and meet the needs of everyone else. And yes, I want to, and so I'll give you the link for that. It'll be in the show notes below. It's a free course. I'm not even going to trade you for your email. Just go through there and use it. I wanted to make that a free resource out there to the world with no bar for entry. Anybody that has YouTube, anybody that can get to YouTube can utilize it. There's links in there for you to print the worksheets out. Go for that. It's about an hour to go through the entire course. You can listen to it while you're driving. You can sit there and take different notes. You can pause it, and it's organized into a playlist. So I'll absolutely share that with you. And yes, Essentialism is one of my favorite books. So this was written by an amazing man named Greg McKeown. I believe it was 2014 that the book initially came out. And this is a book that really changed my life. And the biggest one that is actually step two, prioritization within the system that I've created. It was another one of these massive light bulb moments in my life. So, surprise, surprise, I was sitting out in the woods reading this book, and it talks about the word priority, which means
Mm-hmm.
the first thing, the most important thing. So, he did research within the literature, and for its first more than 500 years of existence, priority was a singular word. One, the first thing. So if you think about I'm in line at the grocery store. If I am first, I'm first in line. I am the priority. And then somewhere in the 1900s, priorities, plural, started showing up. So somebody with a DeLorean or a time stone started messing with everything in the 1900s. And then, surprise, surprise, we're all busy and not getting anything done. And we're getting burned out and we're exhausted. And we have this societal glorification of exhaustion and grinding and all these different things. It's, well, what if we took a step back and figured out, okay, I'm in first gear and reverse and fourth at the same time. This isn't going to work. I'm not going to get very far here. And I'm spinning the steering wheel all the way left, all the way right, left, right, all over the place. Turn the e-brake on, turn it off. Oh, and I'm almost out of gas all at the same time. So that book is incredible, and I recommend anyone that is interested in this episode, anybody that wants to go listen to the course I put on YouTube, I'll mention it in there as well. I believe I have the link to the Amazon book in there. So that is amazing. It very much is minimalism around your house, like not having 14 different of the same pairs of shoes. It's not that you can't have any. If shoes are your thing, go for it. That's fine. But we don't have clutter all over the place. So essentialism is very much that for your head and for your professional life, for your business, if you're an entrepreneur. So I highly recommend that book. And then the follow-up just came out in the last couple of years. It's called Effortless. So once you have figured out what is essential, what is important, then how do I make that easier? And how do I even make it a bit of fun? So what I really loved about that book, and something that I try to impact into my life as often as I can, is pairing the essential with the enjoyable.
There you
So
go.
there's lots of times where if I have a call or if I have a meeting with somebody and they say, "Hey, I'm going to be in the car or I can't turn my video on." Okay, do you mind if I go for a walk during our meeting? Because I'm probably going to have better ideas and I'm going to be a better listener, and I'm getting my movement in, I'm getting my blood flowing. So wherever you can, pair the essential with the enjoyable. Maybe you have, a favorite podcast. like this one. You can listen to that while you're on the treadmill or the elliptical or doing something, or if you're stuck in traffic, you can, instead of listening to the same 20 songs over and over and over again, go create an Audible account and start learning, start putting some good quality things into your head holes on the side there. And it's amazing those little things that we can do to maximize our time. So yeah, thank you for bringing those books up. They are absolutely amazing. I recommend them pretty much on a weekly basis. And I'm very big on Audible. I love listening to books. And Greg has narrated the books as well. He grew up in England, so he has a lovely accent. And this is a term that I have created that you feel, using air quotes here, way more smarter learning from someone with an English accent, right? Isn't
Totally.
that how it works for you too?
100%. 100%. And I love the part. I'm glad you brought up the priority idea, Ryan, because it's interesting because when our mastermind friends enlightened me with the books, I had not read it before. And then I read it like I was all over it when I got it because it just was light bulbs
Good.
going on all over. But priority, that hooked me too, that it was in 1400 or whatever. It was just a singular. And now, companies will say pry one, pry two, pry, so you get sick, because
Right. If
it's so
everything
much.
is important, nothing is important.
Right, right. And just exactly like when our team talks about marketing, it's not really that different. If you're marketing to everybody, you're marketing to nobody. So
Right. You may as well just go yell from the halls of Walmart, which is
yeah,
always an
yeah,
interesting
yes,
place.
yes, yes, yes. And so it seems really like the taking control of your time, really what to me, what you're talking about is creating a life minute budget. And there is nothing more valuable. Think about it, right? We can't even put the word
Right.
commodity on it because it's our lives. There's
Right.
nothing more valuable.
Yeah, you
And so
can't buy more.
you can't buy more. There is limited. None of us really know, when, whether there's more in front of us than behind us or whatever, we don't know. And so
Right.
what budget could possibly be more important than this one? And then the other thing you
That's
said,
it.
Ryan, too, I made some notes. I was making some notes here because I think it's good for folks to really get a visual because when you said sort of the overall societal exhaustion, right? This is because we're all conditioning each other because you said something else that led into that, which was also very good, that we glorify it. And
Yep.
I think it's for everybody. Though I do think even though it's 2023, it might be still a little more glorified for male providers a bit. I mean, I think we've gotten better with it, but it's, oh, you way to go. You're working 3 jobs and you can hardly stand up. That a boy. You know what I mean? And
A good hard
it's true.
day's work. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, there are
yeah, it's
all
true for
these.
women
Yeah.
too. But I think it's
Right.
maybe I'm wrong. It seems like a little bit more um gender jail. We're still busting out, but
Yeah, I would agree with that. And think about, good hard earned money. Well, what if it was a little bit easier and we were using our heads?
right.
That's okay too.
Like Greg McGowan's effortless, that we can get a big
Right.
great idea and not have to take a bubble bath full of shame that
Right.
we didn't spend 20 hours a day and then leave after the boss because if we don't stay late we're not important, right? Like there's all that
Yeah.
just conditioning. So that made me think too, Ryan, because that if we picture the overall, you put it very eloquently, the overall societal exhaustion we're experiencing because of the glorifying of things.
Right.
If we can picture
Yeah.
that, like right now we just had a ton of flooding in Vermont. So
Yeah.
picture a fast current and just stepping out of it. Like just
Yes.
step out of it. Just choose to step out.
Yeah. You don't have to hike upstream. You can
No.
hike next to the stream.
Oh, I
And there's
like
so many different things. I mean, that when we think about our decision fatigue of all the different little decisions we make every day, that's why most of us don't eat ice cream with breakfast. But at the end of the day, we have that decision fatigue where the willpower isn't there. It's like, whatever, you know,
well,
if
that's a good
somebody's lunch
point.
isn't great, it's like, hey, you can course correct and have a better dinner. It doesn't
Right.
mean that you just like, okay, you blew it, whatever. You can course correct at any time, but having those, trying to make decisions once that prevent 1,000
Mhm.
other decisions is
Right,
really
right, right.
important. So I know that you mentioned there's a lot of young adults that listen to this as well. So we'll talk just for a minute about the societal glorification of alcohol as well, where I'll tell a lot of people, what if you chose Friday or Saturday if you wanted to have a couple drinks with friends? What if you didn't have any of that Sunday through Thursday? What would change in your life? What would it do? What would change if you removed a daily depressant from your life?
Oh, yeah.
Anxiety is a big thing that not enough people talk about,
Mhm.
where you're putting this into your body, and the next day, studies have shown there can be spikes in anxiety the day after or multiple days after your body having to deal with the alcohol. So what if you made a decision once to say, you know what, I'm going to choose Friday or Saturday?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
every once in a while, if you have a barbecue and you want to have something to drink on a hot day on the back deck, but just not every single day, and not 15 of them and 3 pounds of wings. I believe in moderation, but if you can set up that healthy boundary, there's nothing wrong with going out to happy hour and getting a salad, or something little to munch on, or a couple pretzels or something. It doesn't mean you have to go have 3 or 4 drinks. You can still go there with your friends and just say, it's just something I'm trying out. And that is perfectly fine. So think about some of those
Definitely.
decisions as well, where, if somebody's pregnant, they just don't drink.
Mhm,
That
mhm.
decision is made once. And it's very easy to just stick with that for most people. If other people are struggling with that, I do recommend going out for support, raising your hand, which is something I'm very big for anybody and everybody to raise your hand. If you need help with something, hey, even if it's something you're an expert in, dentists get cavities sometimes, and that's okay.
Oh, I like
As
that.
as long as they go to another dentist and have it taken care of. So I want to encourage you, if you're dealing with something, it is okay to raise your hand for help.
I'm gonna use that cavity one. I like that.
Yeah,
No,
randomly hit me one day.
I totally like that. And just one last thing, Ryan, just to reiterate, because you said it earlier with James Clear's Atomic Habits with that 1% thing, especially since we're kind of talking to young adults right now. Could be anybody, right? I just think
Yeah,
they're a little newer with coming into it because
yeah,
because there's a reason in January after the holidays there are so many treadmills and ellipticals on Craigslist
yeah,
for half price, right? Because we're reaching for the stars and we're going to make all these changes, and having the change idea is obviously a good one, but sometimes many of us give up before the results even have a chance. So this, when you were saying
right.
earlier about the like biting off just 1%, that
Yep,
by the end, and I'm not looking at the book, I'm pretty sure it's 37% by the end of the year. So that, with you talking about the drinking thing on the weekend, right? So if there's a 1% chance, even if it's that isn't per day, it's per week or whatever, by the
mhm.
end of 365 days or plus leap year, then you've made huge strides. It doesn't mean
Massive.
cold turkey
Sure.
in that age range might be hard, right? And
Right.
or with other fill in the blank with the fitness example or whatever. But I think, like James Clear says, and like you're saying, Ryan, people often when they bite off too much like that, they fail because it needs to be smaller little breadcrumb steps and then celebrate those.
Right. 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 And that's really important, is whether it's a goal you're getting after, or something you want to achieve, or something you want to stop doing. It's okay to take small little steps,
Yep.
because at the end of the day, I used to say this to so many of the members of this fitness center, the heaviest weight is the front door. Once you're there, you're good. it's
You
it's
got
it's
some
the
good
getting.
ones. You got some good ones.
um it's
Just
just
get
getting there.
started.
Yeah. Yeah. And build in some healthy rewards. If it is something like a health and fitness thing, okay, I'm gonna get a cool new pair of sneakers, or I'm gonna get different clothes, or I'm gonna
Right on.
downsize my wardrobe, or I'm gonna do some of these different things. Or it's okay to reward yourself. We're very big on experiences. We have a 7-year-old son, and experiences are very big. So yeah, he's got some toys, and I'm a big Lego fan. So there's plenty of Lego stuff and Star Wars stuff around here, and monster trucks, but we're very big on experiences. Like we go camping, or we'll go to the amusement park, or
Mhm.
we'll go into museums in the city. We'll do these different things. We'll take them to the beach, where stuff that's going to have, I just learned this term the other day. It is memory dividends, right up your alley. So these
Yeah.
experiences, you get a benefit from looking forward to them. You enjoy them in the moment, and then you have these dividends that you can look back on that trip, that safari trip in Africa. I'm like, wow, like
Right.
it was so cool to observe all the nature, and like it's you can almost time travel back to that, and you get all the happy chemicals in your brain, and you get that because of that experience. So the memory dividends is a new thing I'm starting to learn about. I just heard that from my roommate from college. He had read a book with that in there.
I like these are like the Ryan isms. I really I like these are good. So that's actually we've thrown around all these books. One of the books, the main book I use in Mindcraft is called The Happiness Advantage by Sean Aker. And he's a big one. That's I recommend that to anybody. He's Harvard
That's
guy, so
awesome.
down to earth. He's hysterical. But anyway, he doesn't put it that way, but he does talk about all the research-based stuff with the experiences versus buying stuff. Buying a
Yes.
lot of stuff, clutter outside causes clutter on the inside and everything you were saying.
Yeah.
So that whole spending money on experiences versus stuff is huge. And then the other thing with that is the memory dividends you're talking about, right? We know for a
Right.
fact, neurologically speaking, I have an issue with that. When people say neuroscience based and it's not there, I get crazy. So we know for a fact that positive emotion leads to positive experiences. We know that for
Yes.
sure. So when you're
Yep.
if you say bringing up that memory of you with your 7-year-old son and the camping that you just did and all that, and
Yep.
bringing him to camp and everything, or the little camp he just went to. So when he brings that up or you bring that up, when you bring up the memory attached
Yeah.
like a barnacle on a dolphin is the emotion of that experience also.
Yeah. Yeah. You can come right back to that time you
The
fed the penguins
dividends,
lunch. Yeah.
100%. I'm going to use, I got some good stuff to roll with here. So,
Nice.
this has been fantastic, Ryan. Before we wind up, I'll ask you if there's anything you wanted, any closing remarks you wanted to say to our listeners.
Sure. Yeah. So if this resonated with anyone, I'd love to hear how it's helping you. Feel free to send me a message or an email. I can put all my contact information in the show notes. Absolutely utilize that YouTube course I put together. It's just an hour that's chunked into little sections. There's an intro, outro, and then those 4 steps of evaluation, prioritization, intentionality, and consistency. So there's a framework in there for you to design your own ideal week. So yeah, I just want to celebrate everybody for investing their life minutes to listening to this episode. I hope it's helped you in some way. I tried to sprinkle as many golden nuggets in here as I could, and we got to have a little adventure and conversation. And I just encourage everybody as we're recording this, we're knock on wood coming out of the pandemic and trying to shake the hangover. And I just encourage people to embrace community, whether that's rekindling an old friendship, spending time with family, just doing things. Community and opposable thumbs is what separates us from everything else on this planet. And we need that as human beings. It's actually a big indicator on longevity is or close friendships and relationships. So I encourage you to embrace community, take care of yourself, embrace every day as a new adventure. And let's start with the flicker of the awareness. How am I spending those life minutes? How am I bringing the right energy to each day? What can I do? Maybe it's something little. Maybe it's going to bed 20 minutes earlier. Maybe it's having an alarm. I mentioned this in the course. That's having an alarm at the end of the day. Okay, I need to be asleep in an hour, so it's time to shut off all the screens. So how many people are, in the scroll hole of social media or watching
Oh,
a crazy documentary about the person that chopped everybody up with chainsaws? And we wonder why we can't fall asleep. Here's the special
scroll
victims unit.
hole.
Good night. We invite some of these stressors into our lives. So I encourage everybody to look at your life and see, and like I do
Definitely.
with going out in the woods, what's working? How can I do more of that? What's not working? What can I evolve?
The scroll hole. I love that. I, I just tell you that the ones and only I'll just throw it in since you brought up the end of the day thing because I'm a bookend person. Like with my gratitude practice in the
Sure.
morning and the no screen thing at night. I don't watch much TV at all, actually. But
Yeah.
also my big thing, Ryan. I'll just throw it out there, and I'm gonna guess you're probably the same. I'm a morning person anyway, but I get up way early because I don't want to start my day hurrying. I want to
Mm-hmm.
enjoy my tea. I don't want to hit the snooze
Right.
button. and then I'm catching up. I'm playing catch up all day long. That's like, no,
Yeah.
my life minutes are
Yeah.
too valuable. And it's small, just even 15, like if usually you get up at 6:30 or 7, try just 15 minutes earlier, for the coffee or the tea or whatever I do
Sure.
it at the end, like read something positive or the gratitude practice. It's a life changer. It's a total game changer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
Just go for a
starting out.
walk. Right. You had mentioned the term autopilot before, and that's why I try to say a lot of these different things with like a different way to say it or some fun way to say it, because it may just resonate with somebody a little differently. And that's big for a lot of people, is you have to figure out in this minute, in this hour, in this week, in this month, in this year, am I living by design or by default? Am
100%.
I giving up my power to somebody else, or am I in control of my life? And we don't have the draft right now. You don't have a specific job. You chose the job that you have.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't forced to do something. You chose to accept that job offer. You chose a certain relationship, and you can choose to evolve that if it's time for you to evolve that.
I love it. I love it.